Our first presentations today will be the Fire Chief Special Achievement Awards. Fire Chief A.E. Bell will be presenting these awards on behalf of the men and women of the Prince George's County Fire Department. Would Assistant Chaplain Warren Litchfield, Fire Captain Eugene A. Jones, and Fire Major William McGowan please join Chief Bell on stage. Each year, the Fire Chief recognizes the achievements of members of the department who exemplify exceptional dedication to duty and outstanding performance in service to Prince George's County. These individuals typically are committed to the mission of the fire department and the fire service community at large and are true professionals in every sense of the word. Fire Chief Special Achievement Award presented to Assistant Chaplain Warren H. Litchfield, Prince George's County Volunteer Fire and Rescue Association. Chaplain Warren Litchfield has been a member of the Fire and Emergency Medical Service for over 40 years. He currently serves as member of the Laurel Volunteer Fire Department and Assistant Chaplain for the Prince George's County Fire Department. Chaplain Litchfield is an unobtrusive man who accomplishes tremendous things through his gentle actions and soft-spoken words. On any given day, you can find him serving others by ministering to their daily spiritual needs or comforting the victims of a personal tragedy. Fire Chief Bell credits Chaplain Litchfield for his faith and personal commitment to improving the lives of others. Chaplain Litchfield personally visits Fire Department headquarters several days a week to offer a quiet and reflective approach to help get through the hectic pace of a typical day. Chaplain Litchfield remains ever ready to serve our members and their families who may need or require his services. Chaplain Litchfield receives no compensation for his work. All of it is done in the true spirit of volunteerism. Fire Chief Bell notes that Chaplain Litchfield has been a tremendous help and provides significant support for his spiritual base, resulting in a special calmness and reassurance of spirit. For this reason, Chaplain Warren H. Litchfield is awarded the Fire Chief Special Achievement Award.
Fire Major William McGowan currently serves as the executive officer to the fire chief. Typically, this position requires Fire Major McGowan to spend countless hours working directly with Fire Chief Bell, coordinating the day-to-day operations of the Fire and Emergency Medical Service Department. Fire Chief Bell recognizes Fire Major McGowan for his relentless work ethic and ability to provide a historical perspective on many issues of importance. Fire Chief Bell fully appreciates Fire Major McGowan's ability to effectively process the daily paperwork and requests from the citizens, elected officials, and members of the department. Additionally, Fire Major McGowan has been involved in the development and implementation of numerous concepts, committees, and programs that have improved the delivery of fire and emergency medical service to our citizens. These include the implementation of the Collapse Response Team, a group of highly trained individuals whose function is to search for and rescue victims of trench and building collapse. Most recently, Fire Major McGowan organized a 2-day retreat that assembled over 125 career and volunteer members for the purpose of team building and improving our ability to serve the citizens. Fire Chief Bell credits Fire Major McGowan for his professionalism, his willingness to accept change, and his ability to understand the dynamics of the ever-changing fire and emergency medical service. For these reasons, Fire Major William R. McGowan is awarded the Fire Chief Special Achievement Award.
Fire Chief Special Achievement Award presented to Fire Captain Eugene A. Jones, Prince George's County Fire EMS Department, Bureau of Fire Prevention Investigations. Fire Captain Eugene Jones was one of the first people that Fire Chief Bell came in contact with when he came to Prince George's County to accept the position of Fire Chief. At the time, he was on a special assignment to evaluate and improve the management of electronic information in our public safety agencies. Fire Captain Jones readily agreed to visit Chief Bell by providing him with a background and historical perspectives concerning many of the people and issues that he would be dealing with. Fire Captain Jones was able to draw from the knowledge and experiences gained while previously serving in the office of the fire chief as the management intern. In order to accommodate the fire chief and his family, Fire Captain Jones often placed his personal and professional welfare aside, often at least to some degree at the sacrifice of his own family. Fire Chief Bell credits Fire Captain Jones for his attention to detail, professionalism, and most importantly, for serving as his ambassador during a time of change. Fire Captain Jones' dedication and performance were above and beyond expectations. For this reason, Fire Captain Eugene A. Jones is awarded the Fire Chief Special Achievement Award. The Fire Department Bronze Medal of Valor is awarded to individuals who experience unusual personal risk and display unusual judgment, zeal, or ingenuity in the performance of their duties. Bronze Medal of Valor presented to volunteer firefighter Philip S. Bird. On December 18, 1996, at approximately 4 a.m., fire and emergency service units from Cottage City, Bladensburg, and surrounding areas were dispatched to a house fire in the 4300 block of Monroe Street in Colmar Manor. Volunteer firefighter Philip Bird was part of the crew of Telesquirt 9 and was one of the first firefighters to arrive on the scene. Firefighters encountered a severely burned elderly female in the front yard of the one-story single-family house that was burning fiercely. In addition to a hazardous situation with live power lines down in the street, the severely burned female began screaming that someone was trapped in the burning house. Without hesitation, firefighters, including volunteer Bird, entered the house in order to find the trapped victim and extinguish the fire as emergency medical service workers treated the injured woman. Firefighters advanced a hose line to the rear of the burning house to stop the spread of fire. At the same time, they initiated a search in the back bedroom area where the remaining occupant was believed to be. Volunteer firefighter Bird, assigned to provide forcible entry, went ahead of the rest of the crew to open the rear door. In doing so, he entered the smoke-filled doorway. Without the protection of a hose line and without regard for his own safety, he began to search for the trapped victim. Working his way down the hall leading to the back bedroom under heavy heat and thick smoke conditions, volunteer firefighter Bird searched until he found an unconscious 68-year-old man on a bedroom floor. As he pulled the man down a hallway to the kitchen area, volunteer firefighter Bird was forced to crawl with the unconscious victim in tow in order to escape from the heat that was advancing quickly from the fire, which by now had consumed most of the structure. Due to the extremely narrow confines of the kitchen area, volunteer firefighter Bird was unable to get past the firefighters' advancing hose lines to extinguish the fire. He then proceeded to a nearby window in the back of the house and advised personnel outside that he located the victim and to alert medical personnel. At this point, volunteer firefighter Bird's air supply had been exhausted and he was pulled from the window by two other firefighters. The victim was removed and attended to by waiting emergency medical workers. Unfortunately, the victim was unable to survive this ordeal and succumbed to the injuries from the fire. Under extreme heat and poor visibility, and although adverse conditions existed, volunteer firefighter Bird found and removed an elderly unconscious victim. For these reasons, and for unusual personal risk, showing good judgment and ingenuity, volunteer firefighter Philip Bird is awarded the Bronze Medal of Valor.
Bronze Medal of Valor presented to Volunteer Sergeant Marshall W. Davies. On January 8, 1996, during a heavy snowstorm, fire and emergency service units from Bladensburg, Landover Hills, and surrounding areas responded to an apartment building fire in the 5100 block of 57th Avenue in Bladensburg. This three-alarm blaze brought over 125 firefighters to the scene. Sergeant Marshall Davies responded on the second alarm as part of the crew from Truck 1. Although the fire had been extinguished, heavy fire conditions had weakened the building's structural integrity and had resulted in significant damage to the building and its contents. As crews from various companies were performing overhaul operations, a firefighter working on the third floor fell through a fire-weakened section of flooring and landed on the second floor on the edge of a large hole burned through the floor. The stunned firefighter hung with his legs and lower body over the edge, unable to move onto solid ground, and in a position where a fall could result in serious injury. Fortunately, Volunteer Sergeant Davies was in the near vicinity, operating on the second floor. He was able to quickly come to the aid of the fallen firefighter. As he grabbed hold to prevent him from falling further, Volunteer Sergeant Davies' self-contained breathing air face piece was knocked off. However, this did not deter him from his mission at hand, and he continued to work in the dark, smoky conditions to extricate the fallen firefighter. Fortunately, as a direct result of Volunteer Sergeant Davies' quick and decisive actions, a trapped firefighter was pulled to safety and was not seriously injured. Volunteer Sergeant Davies suffered sustained smoke inhalation that required medical treatment. For unusual personal risk and ingenuity in coming to the aid of a fallen firefighter, Volunteer Sergeant Marshall Davies is awarded the Bronze Medal of Valor.
Bronze Medal of Valor presented to volunteer firefighter Brian T. Johnson. On October 26, 1996, at approximately 7:30, a customer of the Landover food store came in and reported a serious accident involving multiple vehicles. Off-duty volunteer firefighter Brian Johnson, working part-time in the store, called for emergency crews and went to the location of the accident, which was situated on eastbound Landover Road near Route 50. Arriving on the scene, he encountered two cars, both on fire, with a trapped person still inside one car. Without hesitation and without the protection of self-contained breathing apparatus, volunteer firefighter Johnson was able to remove the injured person from the burning car. The fire quickly spread from the engine compartment to the passenger side of the car. Volunteer firefighter Johnson assessed the extent of the woman's injuries, leaving her in the hands of another rescuer. He then cleared the crowd around the vehicles and checked the condition of the other driver before returning to the injured woman. At this point, the hysterical driver, delirious, possibly in shock, was screaming that her grandchild was still inside the burning car. Through intense heat and billowing smoke, volunteer firefighter Johnson was forced to break out the glass of the rear left door in order to get inside. He entered the vehicle. As he did, the conditions worsened, forcing him to stretch across the front seat in an attempt to locate the child. This was done without the benefit of personal protective gear. He searched in vain for the missing child, but to no avail. When he left the vehicle, the left front tire exploded due to the extreme heat, causing flames to envelop volunteer firefighter Johnson's upper body, resulting in first-degree burns to his arms, face, as well as singeing his hair. As firefighters arrived to extinguish the fire, the female victim had been calmed down by the crew of the first arriving ambulance, at which time she indicated the child was in fact not in the car but was safely elsewhere. However, for putting the welfare of others ahead of his own, and for unusual personal risk, courage, judgment, zeal, and ingenuity in coming to the aid of an injured driver, volunteer firefighter Brian Johnson is awarded the Bronze Medal of Valor.
Bronze Medal of Valor presented to Volunteer Sergeant Michael S. Madison. approximately 4 p.m., fire and emergency service units responded to a report of a house fire in the 1400 block of Sea Pines Court and Lake Arbor subdivision of Kettering. While en route, initial reports indicated a child was trapped in the burning house. First arriving firefighters encountered heavy smoke conditions coming from the house and advanced hose lines to extinguish the fire. Firefighting crews entered through the front door and aggressively attacked the fire that was coming down the stairwell from the top floor. As this was being done, search and rescue crews, including Volunteer Sergeant Michael Madison, quickly passed the protection of the hose line into the thick black smoke to begin a primary search for the missing child. While the fire was being contained, rescuers heard a faint and distressful cry coming from top floor. Within minutes, searching through the intense heat and thick smoke, Volunteer Sergeant Madison came to a locked door. He forced the door open and systematically searched the room, where he was able to locate a semi-conscious child hiding in a closet, apparently overcome from the choking and toxic smoke. Without hesitation and regard for his own safety, Volunteer Sergeant Madison removed his self-contained breathing apparatus face piece and placed it over the child's face. Knowing the mask was too large for the child, Volunteer Sergeant Madison alertly utilized a specialized technique and activated his pressure valve to force fresh air into the child. This kept the heat and smoke away from harming the child any further. He was able to quickly exit the burning house as other firefighters continued to extinguish the fire and turned the child over to waiting emergency service personnel. Volunteer Sergeant Madison's action directly resulted in the saving of a child's life. For unusual personal risk, courage, judgment, zeal, and ingenuity, Volunteer Sergeant Michael Madison is awarded the Bronze Medal of Valor.
Bronze Medal of Valor presented to firefighter 1, Willie C. Sellers. On March 4th, 1996, at approximately 6 p.m., off-duty firefighter Willie Sellers was in his apartment off Campus Way South in Largo preparing dinner. He noticed a peculiar odor coming from elsewhere in the building. He opened his door and discovered a considerable amount of smoke in the hallway, apparently rising from a lower floor. As he investigated for a possible source of the smoke, he notified occupants of the apartment building by knocking and banging on the doors as he searched for the source of the unusual smoke. As his neighbors became aware of the emergency situation, he also activated the building's alarm system and asked a neighbor to call 911 to report a possible fire. As this was being done and the smoke conditions worsened, off-duty firefighter Sellers, without the protection of any specialized protective gear, proceeded to the top floor apartment of an elderly woman known to have mobility problems. Once she had been calmed and firefighter Sellers had comforted her, he carried her to safety away from the smoke-filled building. As fire and emergency service units arrived on the scene, firefighter Sellers was then able to assist them by directing firefighters to the apartment of origin on the first floor. Firefighters found a bedroom fully engulfed in flame. Fortunately, because of his quick and decisive action, the building's 9 occupants were safely evacuated. Primarily, even though he was off duty, firefighter Sellers took the initiative and the appropriate measures to secure the evacuation of the building, while at the same time ensure the safety of all occupants. As a result, the loss of life and serious injury was averted. For this reason, firefighter Willie C. Sellers is awarded the Bronze Medal of Valor.
Bronze Medal of Valor presented to volunteer firefighter Christopher N.E. Womack. On the evening of November 6, 1996, fire and emergency service units were dispatched for a building fire in the 1400 block of Southern Avenue in Oxon Hill. First arriving firefighters encountered heavy fire and smoke on the second and third floors of an apartment building. As part of a crew from Truck 17, responsible for laddering the building, volunteer firefighter Christopher Womack entered a second-floor window to the apartment full of smoke. While conducting a systematic search and performing ventilation techniques, he heard a cry for help from a nearby room. Finding his way through the smoke, he entered a bedroom to find an 85-year-old female suffering from severe smoke inhalation and respiratory distress. Without regard for his own safety, volunteer firefighter Womack immediately removed his self-contained breathing apparatus facepiece and placed it over the face of the victim so she could receive fresh air. By this time, firefighters had contained the fire elsewhere in the building. However, heavy smoke conditions still existed. With the assistance of others, volunteer firefighter Womack was able to remove the semi-conscious victim out of the smoke-filled building to waiting emergency medical personnel. She was transported to a nearby hospital and treated for smoke inhalation. For his willingness to place the welfare of another above his own, and for unusual personal risk, zeal, and ingenuity, volunteer firefighter Christopher Womack is awarded the Bronze Medal of Valor.
Bronze Medal of Valor presented to Paramedic 1, Penny R. Allen, Paramedic 2, Robert P. Eby Jr., Fire Captain Thomas J. Hayden Jr. We also ask that Volunteer Sergeant Michael J. White and Volunteer Firefighter Michael G. Panaghetti please come to the stage as well. On April 24th, 1996, Engine 212 and Ambulance 219 from the Oxon Hill Volunteer Fire Department were dispatched along with Medic Unit 9 to the 6700 block of Hillcroft Place in the Rosecroft Park neighborhood. Florida reported drowning. Units had just cleared another call nearby and were on the scene within minutes. Upon arriving, firefighters and paramedics were met by a neighbor. Following her across the yard around to the back of the house, rescuers were then led through a fence to the backyard of an adjoining address where they encountered a large in-ground pool. Several people surrounding the pool's edge, all in varying degrees of hysteria. However, firefighters were able to learn that the child was believed to still be in the pool somewhere. The pool had apparently been left uncovered all winter, as there was a tremendous amount of debris in the water. The water was dark brown, leaving absolutely no visibility below the surface, nor was there any indication of evidence of a child or where the child's whereabouts may be in this murky water. Immediately, under the direction and control of Fire Captain Thomas Hayden, Volunteer Sergeant Michael White, and Volunteer Firefighter Michael Panaghetti, without hesitation or special protective gear, entered the water. It was apparent that the water was very cold, causing a significant hazard to both rescuers. Captain Hayden then ordered two other firefighters not to enter the water and to stand by should Volunteer Firefighter White and Panaghetti need assistance themselves. Volunteer Sergeant White surfaced empty-handed several times, as did Volunteer Firefighter Panaghetti. While this was happening, Fire Captain Hayden called for additional units to respond to the scene as paramedics stood by the poolside with medical gear. In the meantime, firefighters had retrieved pike poles and clemens hooks from the apparatus in order to aid in the search. Due to the adverse and chilly water conditions, fearing for their own safety, Volunteer Fire Sergeant White and Volunteer Firefighter Panaghetti were ordered out of the water as others simultaneously searched from the pool's edge with poles, and they dragged the bottom. Almost immediately, Fire Captain Hayden felt his pole touch what he thought was part of the victim. Without hesitation, Volunteer Firefighter Panaghetti again dove into the frigid water to effect a rescue. Unfortunately, he was unable to secure a firm hold on the victim and had to surface for air. As Volunteer Sergeant White entered the water to assist, Fire Captain Hayden maintained contact with the chief via the pole. with the child rather. Fire Captain Hayden's directions gave that firefighter Panaghetti did locate the victim at the bottom of the pool this time, and on his second attempt was able to bring him to the surface. Unfortunately, he still did not have a firm grip on the child. Fire Captain Hayden immediately came to firefighter Panaghetti's aid and assisted in removing the lifeless victim out of the water. The child was very cold and in obvious cardiopulmonary arrest. Volunteer Sergeant White and others helped volunteer firefighter Panaghetti out of the water as nearby paramedics were ready to spring into action. Mouth-to-mouth resuscitation was initiated. This consisted of CPR to maintain circulation and oxygenation. Even though the initial attempt at ventilation resulted in a rush of water from the victim's airway, the paramedic team, using an advanced medical procedure, secured an airway with an endotracheal tube. This ensured an adequate flow of air to the victim. Now, since the patient had been submerged in cold water for an estimated 12 to 15 minutes, it was very important to provide the necessary support for the critical and basic life functions. With the assistance of paramedic Allen, paramedic Evie, they established intravenous line for additional pharmacological and circulatory interventions. The victim's body temperature was extremely low. He was unconscious and not breathing. As he was loaded into the medic unit, and while en route to the hospital, working feverishly to restore his life, paramedic Allen and paramedic Evie established a pulse and resuscitated the young victim, bringing him back to life. Once at the hospital, both paramedics Allen and Evie assisted emergency room personnel supporting the delicate balance of life. Once stabilized at the local hospital, the young victim, still in very critical condition, was transferred to Children's Hospital by medevac helicopter. The day after the ordeal, the child woke up and was able to recognize his family, even remembered falling into the pool while trying to retrieve a ball. He remained in optimistically guarded condition, but critical condition, for several days, but gradually showed signs of improvement. After a brief stay in the hospital, the child returned home, showing no ill effects of the accident. The individual heroism of these individuals saved a young person's life. For unusual judgment, zeal, and ingenuity, the Bronze Medal of Valor is awarded to Fire Captain Thomas J. Hayden, Jr. for his overall command and control of this incident. Paramedic 1 Penny R. Allen and Paramedic 2 Robert P. Evie, Jr. displayed unusual judgment, zeal, and ingenuity in the performance of their duties and represented the Bronze Medal of Valor for their part in resuscitating the young victim.
The Fire Department's Silver Medal of Valor is awarded to individuals who experience great personal risk and who display great judgment, zeal, or ingenuity in the performance of their duties. Putting himself at great personal risk, displaying courage above and beyond the call of duty, and acting with great zeal in the performance of his duties in an attempt to rescue the drowning victim while assisting a fellow rescuer, Volunteer Sergeant Michael J. White is awarded the Silver Medal of Valor. The Fire Department Gold Medal of Valor is awarded to individuals who experience extreme personal risk and display the highest degree of judgment, zeal, or ingenuity in the performance of their duties. The Gold Medal of Valor, the Fire Department's highest honor, is being awarded to volunteer firefighter Michael Panaghetti for extreme personal risk, above and beyond the call of duty, and acting with the highest degree of professionalism under adverse conditions during the rescue of a young drowning victim. Gold Medal of Valor presented to Fire Captain John K. O'Brien. During the early morning of February 5th, 1996, fire and emergency service units responded to a report of smoke coming from a house in the 6800 block of Forest Hill Drive in College Heights Estates. Returning from a previous call elsewhere, Fire Captain John O'Brien and his crew responded with Rescue Squad 1, along with other units from his station and surrounding communities. Engine 12, responding from quarters and with 2 personnel, arrived first on the scene and encountered heavy smoke coming from a large single-family home. This crew advanced a hose line to the front door and proceeded inside to find the source of smoke and look for possible victims. Fire Captain O'Brien arrived moments later and immediately went to the front door to ensure the safety of firefighters who had already gone inside to attack the fire. Upon doing this, he encountered high heat and thick, heavy smoke conditions. Unknowingly, a slow-burning but intense basement fire had burned for some time before detection and burned through the floor. The first firefighter, who had entered the structure by himself, to everyone's surprise, had fallen through a hole in the fire-weakened floor of this large home as the fire still raged. The trapped firefighter was in a very precarious and dangerous position, straddling a floor joist between the first floor and the basement. Fire was impinging directly upon his feet and legs. Semi-conscious and unable to help himself, the trapped firefighter needed immediate intervention in order to survive this ordeal. Without regard for his own safety and the protection of hose lines, Fire Captain O'Brien did not hesitate and immediately went to the aid of the trapped firefighter. Fortunately, his ingenuity, physical conditioning, and courage allowed him to eventually pull the dazed comrade from the blazing inferno. The severe fire damage incurred by the gear worn by the trapped firefighter was evidence that the quick actions of Fire Captain O'Brien prevented more serious injuries and possibly death. Even though protective gear probably aided the trapped firefighter from immediate danger for a few minutes, serious injury was the likely result had it not been for Fire Captain O'Brien's quick action. The rescued firefighter did require treatment for burns and smoke inhalation. For extreme personal risk, courage, judgment, zeal, and ingenuity in the performance of his duties, which are held in the highest regard of the Fire and Emergency Medical Service, Fire Captain John K. O'Brien is awarded the Fire Department's highest honor, the Gold Medal of Valor. We'd also like firefighter Michael Panaghetti to return to the stage. The heroic actions and dedication to duty of volunteer firefighter Michael G. Panaghetti and Fire Captain John K. O'Brien demonstrate their desire to perform in the highest traditions of fire service. Fire Chief A.D. Bell takes great pride in naming them 1996 Prince George's County Firefighters of the Year.